Hello and welcome to the Rask Network. What you're about to hear and see is limited to general financial information only. Please be sure to speak to your financial planner or refer to our financial services guide available at rask.com.au/FSG before acting on the information.
G'day everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Family Finance mini-series. My name is Mitchell Sneddon. I'm joined by my co-host PK, who was just about to take a sip of tea.
Hello everyone.
And we've got Siobhan here as well.
Hello.
Who is our advisor from Northeast Wealth. As I always say, we're about to go into the grey area of family finances. This topic is very grey because I think, as we've been talking about it, every single one of us has a different approach to this. And I'd say everyone listening has probably got a different approach as well. We're going to be talking about managing your finances as a household. So joint accounts, keeping your stuff separate, and just talking about how modern families actually do it. So I'm going to throw it to you, Siobhan. Can you tell us how you and your husband go about managing your finances?
Yeah. So we have we basically combine everything, but we each have our own pocket money account that's like do what you want with it. So essentially we have different pools for our money. So we have a bills account, we have a goals account, and then we each have lifestyle accounts, which is pocket money. And then everything outside of that is in our primary savings account, which is our offset. So the way that it works is that we've got a budget, which basically we plug in all of the amounts for everything, and then that will tell us, whether you get paid monthly or fortnightly or weekly, how much you should be allocating to each of those accounts. And so when we get paid, we just transfer the money to ourselves for pocket money and then out to those accounts, and then the rest sits in the offset.
Do you automate that with the bank account that you have? So when it hits, can it be split?
Yeah.
Cool. Who do you bank with?
CBA.
Cool.
Yeah, which is not like that's just because our mortgage is with CBA at the moment. But I would encourage that people don't get too stuck on one bank. CBA does have some good features. For example, like all of our accounts are offset accounts offsetting against the one mortgage, which is a really good feature. But at the same time, some people
that's cool.
Yeah, it is a really good feature. But at the same time, some people get really fixated on, I've been a member of this bank for years. And it's like, yeah, but you could get a much lower interest rate elsewhere if you're prepared to move. So I think that who you bank with probably depends on the best mortgage that you
So
can
have
do.
you moved your mortgages around?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Don't be afraid to move.
How often do you review that?
Usually every 12 months or so. And like, to be fair, if there's only a really marginal increase or a change, I beg your pardon, we don't bother because, you often have to pay like refinancing, associated costs, and plus just the whole stuff around of like moving all your banking. It's not a fun job. But also if, before we move banking, I've called up the bank before and just had conversations where I've just been like, escalate me to your next manager. This isn't good enough. Put me on to your next manager, and ended up with a mortgage interest rate that was 0.5% below their standard plus $1,000 cash back. So just be prepared to
dig in.
Yeah.
It's like you're cancelling your Foxtel and all of a sudden you've got 12 months free.
Yeah.
That's very impressive. Yeah, I want to be taught how to do that.
You just got to be assertive, but kind and assertive, Don't be
Yoga teacher voice.
Don't be a dick about it, but yeah.
PK, how do you manage, you and Lee, softly, how do you guys manage the accounts?
Oh, well, everything just goes into one account, and then it sort of gets shifted out into we pay the mortgage. So basically everything's all in for us. We go into one big bucket.
How long have you been doing that for?
I don't know. Since very, very early on. We could never split bills or anything. We had to put everything in together.
That worked for you guys.
That worked for us. I don't have the attention span to pay bills very well. So it has to be automated for me, and it has to go into one bucket.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to find what works for you guys.
Yeah.
So could you say then how much you save every month? Do you know what that number is?
Yes, because it's left over.
Yeah, great.
So, and then we use that leftover and pop it into another account.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be good if it was a bit more.
Once childcare is out of the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. A gal can dream. No, look, we started off with putting bills on the fridge and doing that stuff. But
Retro.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago. But it didn't last very long. We actually don't have an offset account at the moment.
You what?
Yeah, because we've got such a budget mortgage.
Yeah.
Maybe cut that.
No, that's fine. But that's because
That's interesting.
A lot of when
Yeah.
I was shopping around, I mean, our mortgage is now just over 12 months old.
Yeah.
And so it's rolling over
Yeah.
and it's preparing to walk. So it's you do get all those options where and the offset it costs more at
That's
a lot of institutions. So we went with that slightly higher cost. So we had the options. We went with Macquarie, and so we've got multiple. We can have multiple offset accounts. But yeah, there's a lot that don't.
And ours doesn't, and it's a subsidiary of one of the big banks that we've used. We're just about to move now, so we're shopping around.
You should give them a call. Get Siobhan on the line.
But certainly, I think there's I'd love to hear your tricks.
I just don't take no for an answer, really. But, I mean, you have to back it up with some reasoning. So, of course, I did my research and I determined I could get these rates elsewhere. So I knew I had the right information prepared to go into that conversation. So when their sales rep was saying to me, well, no, we can't offer you better, I'm saying, well, this is the rate I can get elsewhere. So just please put me onto your manager. Otherwise, I'm just going to ring them and I'll just move on my banking and you'll lose me entirely. So you can't just, be argumentative. You have to have reasoning behind it. And then I actually told a white lie and said that, well, it's just a flat out lie on.
You never.
Yeah. I told them that I was also offered a cashback, which I wasn't, but I just told them that anyway. And so I negotiated a cashback for myself.
Good for you.
So, you just got to be.
Combank are going to come and claim it.
I know, please don't. It's not a recommendation to do that.
They don't listen. It's fine.
No, but the truth of the matter is you need to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like
in all factors of your life.
Totally. Like one of my grounding things that I follow in life is if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask for it because the worst thing that will happen is they say no and then you're in your current position.
A lot of people don't think that they can ask for big institutions, but yeah, they absolutely can.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, realistically, sometimes the answer will be no. And that's okay. You can either accept that or you can go to another option. That's sort of the beauty of living in the society that we live in at the moment. There are always other options if you're not happy with what you've got at the moment.
That's right. So we don't have an offset account, but we live our lives like we do. So we siphon all of the extra money at the end of the week into that offset account, into that extra account.
So is that just a high interest savings account?
Yeah.
Or I mean, the cash rate's high at the moment, so it will still be doing a reasonable job.
So Claire and I, we have always kind of operated as separate little economic units. And so that which just works out best for us. But we 50-50 on the home deposit. So we both have put in the exact same amount going into that. And then when funds come into our bank accounts from our pay, we both immediately transfer our mortgage payments into the offset account. And then we put whatever's remaining, we each put 60% of that into our joint account. And then whatever else you've got left is yours to do whatever you want with. And yeah.
Do you have an account for your kid, for Wilbur?
Wilbur does not have, well, technically, I guess he does have a bank account. Wilbur's got a brokerage account. So he's not out there tapping and going. And at the moment, we provision for the joint account. The joint account's Wilbur's account, really. I mean, that's where all of his expenses come from. So if one of us is out there taking Wilbur out on like a little activity, and sometimes that activity might even just be going on a tram, which he loves.
It's a great activity.
He gets to choose the coloured seat he goes on, orange or green. It's always orange. Take him a few stops down and you just go down to the pub to get some chips.
Yeah.
Right. That pint and chips, that's going on the joint account, even if it's just one of us there.
100%.
So it's a Wilbur activity. But then we're left with our leftovers. Back to the account Wilbur does have. Wilbur does have a brokerage account. So I have a brokerage account for Wilbur. We try to put a certain amount of that in, a certain amount of money into that from the joint account every single month. And look, sometimes Wilbur's brokerage account needs to be cut.
Sacrifices need to be made.
It's sorry, buddy, but cut.
It's a long-term
That's exactly right. And so, but saying that I'm not saying we dip into it. It's just we don't add to it that month. But Wilbur's grandparents have the bank account details for the brokerage account as well. So birthdays, they'll and then whenever Mum's wakes up and just feels generous one day, you see cash sitting.
Gosh, I should do that.
Yeah. And so as that builds up, I just buy more ETFs for Wilbur.
How old were you and Claire when you met? Because I'm just curious if age of when you got together in a relationship impacts your decision around how you combine your finances.
I was going to say I can't recall, but I can because a very disastrous event was my 30th birthday. And that's when Claire and I were just in the courting process. So 9 years ago.
Yeah. So you were 30? Yeah. Okay. So do you feel that, because I don't know, how old were you when you were with your husband?
It's 25.
25. And you were always combined. And so I was 20 when Ben and I got together. Yeah. And so my observation is that the older you are when you meet, the more likely you are to keep things pretty separate because
you've become your own economic.
You become your own 100%. And also, what you're earning might not be commensurate to what they're earning. So you're thinking, well, hang on, I've worked hard to get myself to this. Whereas when Ben and I, we were 20 and 23. So everything that we've got it has been a joint accumulation. So it made it a lot easier when we moved out to just go, stuff it, let's just combine everything because it didn't feel like a economic imbalance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
Absolutely. That was the case for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything when we got together.
Same.
We just had nothing. Barely could get a tenancy agreement.
Yeah. We had such little money that we were both in full-time uni, both working multiple jobs. And my sister, bless her, was transferring us $50 a fortnight, which is like not a lot of money, but that meant the world to us at the time. Like that $50 a fortnight was like, we can, have like maybe one brunch together a fortnight or something like that and just like live a little.
Oh, bless her.
So I know she's the best, but that's where we came from financially. So now it's, there was never this imbalance of money or anything like that.
So are there any expenses that you guys would have a discussion about rather than spending freely yourself? Because if everything's kind of joint, you've got your own little spending accounts. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you say I'm going to spend, but to go, well, I better have a discussion with my partner about this?
Oh yeah, for sure. We talk about most expenses. Like, don't get me wrong, not like I went and bought a coffee, but if it's anything that's like a couple of $100 or more, unless, if it's from his pocket money account or if it's from my pocket money, you do you. That's your money. You can do whatever you want with it. It's none of my business.
If he comes back with the 75-inch TV for the garage, you're
totally.
Like, go nuts, mate.
If he wants to spend his money on that is his prerogative, and like same for me. So, when it's our own money, like we don't check in on each other. I don't know what he spends his money on and vice versa. It's just whatever. But if it's coming from our combined, hey, this is something outside of bills and we want to go buy this thing. So a robot vacuum is an example of that. Just got one recently. It's changed my life.
Tell us about it.
It mops as well.
Get
I have
out
2
of town.
dogs.
It mops.
And I have 2 Cocker Spaniels and we have to vacuum pretty regularly.
That's a daily vacuum, that is.
It is. And we just couldn't be stuffed. So basically what we did was got a robot vacuum that vacuums and mops, and my floors have never been cleaner.
Is that, your house single level?
Single level.
So
yeah.
that robot's got free range.
I know, Rocky the robot. We love Rocky. He's a cherished member of our family.
So we've got a townhouse, and so it's upstairs, downstairs. I don't know.
That sounds like a 2 robot problem, mate.
That's an upstairs, downstairs robot,
Yeah.
that is. You could put a top hat on the upstairs one.
Yeah, you can. Call him Jeeves. But that expense was like a couple of grand. And so that wasn't just this would be great. Let's
Sorry,
go
the
buy
robot vacuum was a couple of grand?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can buy various levels of quality, and we wanted one that was got to be quality that we didn't have to like mop or vacuum after it did its job.
Well, it'd be pointless, wouldn't it?
Totally. But some of them aren't that good.
To mop and to not have to mop and vacuum for a couple of grand.
And this one comes and it will have its bin filled up, take itself back to its little port, suck out, and then just go back to where it was and keep on spinning. Like, it's unreal. But anyway, with those sorts of things, first of all, we have like very robust discussions about, is this actually worth the money? What does this mean to us? How will it impact other things? And then we always wait for it to go on sale. I never pay full price for anything.
Sale.
Seem to have very clear lines of communication, like a very clear, open communication about this stuff. Is that something that's come naturally to you guys, or do you think it's something that you've purposely worked on because of the line of work you're in?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think probably a combination of both. Like, because we've been together for, 12 and a bit years now, and like we've literally grown up together practically. So we've always talked about even the most mundane things. Like, even now we'll just text each other all day about just stuff that you don't really need to communicate, but that's just us. Like, we'll just be like, oh, this happened. So that's always been sort of part of our relationship. However, definitely because of what I do, I'm just very conscious of the fact that, we will operate better as a team. So we need to make these decisions together and both feel like we've had the input. And especially when it's big financial decisions, you want to both feel like you're having the right level of input into it.
Do you have any examples where couples have come to you in your line of work and they're working towards a big financial goal, but very rarely would couples be on a 100% equal footing when it comes to their finances? So as in, like, say, their wage, for example.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
Well, I mean, I just try and talk to them very candidly about this is, if you're wanting to, have a long-term partnership with this person, not everything's going to be 50-50 all the time. And that's not just in money. That's in, how much I can be there for you emotionally, how much you can do around the house. Like, you can't see a relationship as everything has to be split 50-50. Otherwise it becomes very like he said, she said type of, it can become toxic. So I think that, and this is just what I talk to them about. Like, if you're wanting to have this long-term successful relationship, you just need to accept that sometimes you'll be contributing more and sometimes they'll be contributing more. And that's just the nature of relationships, I think.
If someone is struggling with that, I think that's maybe somewhere, instead of going to a full-blown advisor, they might go to a money coach that works with cash flow and money mindset.
Totally, yeah. Or look, you could also go speak to a couples counsellor about why you don't have that level of trust in the first place, because that's a really important one. But also, I think, I'm saying this in a simplistic way because, of course, there are situations where people meet later in life and they might have already had one financial separation. They've already lost a portion of their asset pool. They don't want to go through that again. And that is a more reasonable grounds to be like, hey, I've got what I've got now and I want to safeguard that. So it really does depend on the situation. But then that's when you might say, okay, well, what we each have currently, we're going to keep separate, and this is mine and that's yours. But now what we accumulate together going forward is ours. And so that could be the approach.
Is something like that something that you actually have to go to? 'Cause in my mind, I think that sounds like a prenup, almost like an arrangement where you legally or otherwise write something. Do you always have to go to like a lawyer for that type of thing, or is it something that you could do sit down with a financial advisor and do? I don't know.
Well, if you wanted a legally binding contract, you definitely have to go to a lawyer. Yeah. So it depends how much you trust your partner and whether you believe in their integrity to do what's right and fair in the middle of some emotional turmoil, which in my experience doesn't happen often. So
there you go. So it might not even be the fact that you don't trust them right there and then, but you just have no idea what's coming down the track.
Exactly.
And if you've got substantial assets, then you need to safeguard those.
Yeah, and you have best intentions for a person when you're in a happy relationship right now with them and you love them. But if that goes pear-shaped for whatever reason, and especially if it goes pear-shaped because they have wronged you, all bets are off that I've seen. I'm not saying that needs to happen, but I'm saying that is common.
No, I like this direction. It's interesting. I've got a dot point here to talk about financial secrets. Have you, in your experience, had people come to you where there's been, like, say, a secret bank account? Or even, actually, it doesn't even have to be that bad. It could just be you've not told your new partner that you've gotten further and further and further down the road with, that you might have 10 grand of credit card debt sitting there. And that could be something that eventually derails a financial plan. Have you come across any of that in your time, Sean?
Yeah, I have actually. It was a really difficult situation because he was the one that was really wanting to see an advisor and had an interest in finance and financial literacy, and she was just not interested at all. And so our approach with our members is that if you're in a partnership, you both have to be part of it, because otherwise, how do you know that you're acting in their best interest when one of the people isn't even there, So that was the challenge, was that she didn't really care, and that's her right not to care. But he called me one day and it basically felt like a therapy session where he was just offloading all his frustrations with her, and then how, she was spending all this money and how he was trying to save and how their mindsets were just completely misaligned. And it ended up that I suggested that we cease the relationship before it got down to the path of delivering advice, because it was just...
cease relationship with you as their advisor, not like, hey, you guys need to break up.
Well, actually, he called me one day and said that they did break up, but then he said that they got back together. It got really messy. But essentially, we are here to help people and we are here to act in their best interests. And so when there's secret assets, secret things that you're dealing with, I don't think that morally or ethically we can really do our jobs. So, yeah, it doesn't make me feel good to be involved in something like that. So I would just say no, thank you.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah.
What do you class as a financial secret?
I don't know. I guess we kind of, in our household, we pretty open slate. But no, I think a lot of people would probably be, say, if they racked up a lot of credit card debt or whatnot, would probably feel a fair bit of shame about that. And it might not be in purposely hiding it, but say if they enter a new relationship, that progresses, they move in together, yada, 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 it might come a point where they think, oh, shit, I probably should tell them about this, because then you're applying for, a lease together. You're maybe going down the path of potentially getting a car loan or getting, you might be really progressed to talks about a mortgage.
Yeah.
And that's going to torpedo that. It's going to come out, and then that secret's kind of built and built and built.
You just hit the nail on the head with shame, because, when people fail at something that is as meaningful as financial safety, there's a tremendous amount of shame that can get wrapped up in that. So it becomes really complex to deal with, because it's not just an issue of money now, it's an issue of psychology. So, but yeah, look, ultimately, you have to rip the Band-Aid off at some point and tell your partner, and hopefully there's someone that's understanding and you can work through it together. And at the end of the day, I mean, this sounds a bit harsh perhaps, but if they're not the kind of person that would support you in that, then wouldn't you rather know sooner than later anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this topic is really fascinating, and I think there's probably 1,001 ways that people actually make it work in their household. So jump on the Rask community, actually, if you're listening to this, and tell us how you manage your joint finances. I think it would help out a lot of people to see different examples, and people might give people confidence going, oh, that's what I do.
Certainly. And what's the threshold of the purchase before you tell your partner? You know, is it $50? Is it 500? What is it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the context of the purchase.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. And whether that's something that's, again, like your money, like your lifestyle money, or whether it's shared money, because I think those two would be different in the way you approached it.
I tend to just tell Lee what I've spent because it's all out of this. It's the bank account, so I have to tell you, so he doesn't have to look. And then I'll get cross with him if he doesn't show me the same courtesy. And oh, geez, where's all the money gone? Oh, that's right. I went to the supermarket. That cost $500 for 3 bags.
That's an expensive shop.
Because he lives.
Yeah, 100%.
Guys, I think we'll leave it there. But this was, I thought this was a really good little dive into the grey area. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
And cheers.
Ta-da.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.